What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction video, and we are about to find out why American eggs are illegal in Britain. Very excited to find this out. However, before we do, if you would like to support the channel by becoming a member, all you gotta do is hit that join button to receive your exclusive benefits. Now let's see what's wrong with the American eggs.
Let's talk about eggs. Hi everyone,
Okay.
It's me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alana and I'm a Canadian, but I have been living here in the UK for the last 7 years. And
Nice.
I have spoken about eggs in the past, and the Brits lost their mind. Mainly because I used to keep my eggs
In the fridge.
I
knew it.
Because that's all I've ever done. In Canada,
they don't do that.
You buy eggs in the refrigerated section, you come home, you put them in your fridge. So
They
here
don't do
in
that
the
there.
UK,
In Europe.
while you don't buy eggs in the refrigerated section, they're usually like with the baking goods, I just instinctively, or perhaps by habit, stored my British eggs in the fridge. And the Brits said, "You're an idiot." So I went to Google because I wanted to know, why are British people so angry? And also, why are they not storing their eggs in the fridge? And honestly, I've learned a lot. So without
what does it have to do? Something would we like chlorinate our eggs or something? Or is that the chicken? It might be the chicken. I'm not exactly sure. We'll jump in. I've seen a video about why American eggs are like, they don't have, like, in Europe eggs are different and all that. But I don't remember details about that video vividly. I just know that Europe don't put them in the fridge. Americans do them in the fridge. They last longer here in America, but they go through some kind of process that I guess the European Health Department, or the equivalent to our USDA, they're like, that's not safe, or that's where we won't allow this in our continent. In the continent of Europe, we know we're not having this.
Let's go. Now, first up, let's talk about American eggs. And when I say American, I'm kind of meaning North American, because Canada and the US, as much as Canadians don't like to admit it, kind of the same thing. In the US, the Department of Agriculture requires that eggs farmed for the supermarket, called graded eggs, are washed and sprayed with a chemical sanitizer. This has to be done before they are sold to the public to reduce the risk of a salmonella infection. Fair. Sounds reasonable. We're at the sink because the eggs get washed. Get it?
Oh my days.
I cleaned my whole kitchen for this 5-second bit. Moving on. Now,
She said I cleaned my whole kitchen for this 5-second bit. That's hilarious. That did make me laugh.
in the UK, they hate washing the eggs.
Yes.
So they don't do it. In the UK, grade A hen eggs cannot be washed. Cannot. Don't do it. This is because the process is thought to actually help the transfer of salmonella from the outside of the egg to the inside. And this
That's
whole
crazy,
thing of like US washing eggs, UK not washing eggs, because of this, you could not sell the opposite egg to the other country because it would be illegal. To wash or not to wash?
That is the question.
So
that is a great question. That's crazy that I guess the two countries find the other country's way, I guess, not a healthy way of doing eggs. Whereas Americans are like, wash them immediately. We don't want to transfer salmonella. They cannot be sold to customers if they're not washed. The UK is like, oh, actually washing would transfer the salmonella from the outside of the egg to the inside of the egg. So that's not safe at all. So I don't know if there's statistics out there that support either of these. Which country is found to get salmonella from eggs? We'll say by percentage wise, because by population would be unfair since the U.S. is much bigger. So percentage wise, the amount of citizens getting salmonella through their eggs. I mean, do either countries have a lot of citizens getting salmonella through eggs? I don't know. If anybody has that graph, those charts, those numbers, I'd love to hear them.
This whole like different process, washing eggs, not washing the eggs, all comes down to countries trying to fight or limit the spread of salmonella. So why do we have two completely different processes?
Exactly.
What does this even mean? Do you guys mind if I sit down for a little bit? I'm getting tired. Also, I've got a bunch of numbers to share. Are you ready? So
Let's go. I asked for the numbers and she's got them for me.
what's the deal with salmonella, eh? Now, according to the FDA, salmonella is the most common cause of food poisoning in the U.S. The more you know.
Really?
The CDC estimates that salmonella, that's hard to say after a while, salmonella in the U.S. causes, ready? About 1.35 million infections, 26,500 hospitalizations, also a difficult word, and 420 deaths in the U.S. every year. And while typically salmonella is not life-threatening, although obviously it does kill some people each year, symptoms are usually things like diarrhea, cramps, vomiting. Sounds like a great Friday night. It was actually a lot harder to find numbers for the UK, which I wasn't expecting.
Really?
I did read one source says that on average, about 10,000 people in the UK are infected with salmonella every year. But that doesn't really seem right. 10,000 versus what? 1.35 million? Science, give me a call. Now,
Science, give me a call.
Salmonella. Good old Sally can infect an egg one of two ways. Either the bacteria is passed from the hen to the egg while it's still developing.
I guess, I wanted the numbers egg-wise, because you can also get salmonella from chicken, right? Am I right or am I wrong on that? I think I'm right. What all can you get salmonella? We're going to Google that. What all can you get salmonella from? So we're going to take a second and find out. All foods can you get salmonella from? Oh, dang. Chicken, turkey, beef, pork, eggs, fruits, sprouts, other vegetables, and even processed foods. So those numbers, while there's a lot more in the U.S., if anyone in the comment section has the numbers, like specifically, I guess, is there an egg number for the U.S.? And she struggled to find numbers of salmonella even for the UK, so I doubt anyone's going to find an egg number for the UK. I guess I would love to hear them if the numbers exist somewhere.
So, like, from the inside to the egg while it's still developing. So, like, from the inside, or it can get onto the outside of the shell when the egg is laid from the hen through feces. Delicious. And as we have just very briefly touched on, the US and the UK attacks this problem in two very different ways. In the US, the go-to egg farming situation is much more focused on how many eggs can we produce in the smallest amount of space. So we're looking at large scale farmhouses in the US versus the UK, which is typically more towards free-range eggs. Now, the factory farm environment in the US gets you a lot of eggs in a small space, but there is a higher risk of contamination for the egg. Even with good sanitary practices, the possibility is still there. And because of this, it is critical that the eggs are washed properly. If the washing process is not done properly, there's actually a higher risk that the egg will be contaminated with salmonella. So the washing liquid, like the chemical business, the wash, the spray, has to be hot, and it has to follow very strict standards so the eggs don't inadvertently get infected. Once our American eggs are washed, they immediately need to be cooled, perhaps in a refrigerator of some kind. So here's the thing with washing eggs. It's kind of like a catch-22. The egg perhaps is dirty, so the egg needs to be washed. But by doing so, you're actually making the shell more fragile. The shell also loses like a really thin protective layer within the wash.
I heard about that.
The eggs are nice and clean. They're all nice and washed. but they are more fragile and they need to be refrigerated because salmonella could get into the egg easier with the shell being compromised. Now, I imagine this actually requires quite a bit of like infrastructure. So the eggs get washed, they got to get washed properly, but then they need to be refrigerated properly for the entire process. So from the washing, they got to be refrigerated, transport, they got to be refrigerated, and then they end up in the shop refrigerated. But like I mentioned, the UK and really the Europeans.
That's very interesting. So it sounds like due to the system that the U.S. has in trying to get the most amount of eggs in a small space, the way the U.K. does it wouldn't work here because there would be more contamination because of how we do which don't sound right in the first place, but it's America. It's all about the almighty dollar. You're placing as many chickens as you can in the smallest area possible to get as much eggs as you possibly can. So the contamination percentage would be much higher in the U.S. than in the U.K., where it's more focused on cage-free eggs. So it sounds like the U.S. system does make sense for the U.S. Maybe the system of all them chickens being put in the smallest space possible to get as many eggs as possible is not a good system. I would rather the UK system with more cage free, but US is bottom dollar, trying to, as much as they can get the money, figure out how to get the most money out of it, they're going to do it. So putting them in smaller spaces allows more spaces to put more farm to factory chicken coop eggs, whatever you call it, while the UK don't have that issue. So their chances of contamination are much lower because, like I said, they're more cage free. So
refrigerated.
This
but like
makes
I
sense
mentioned,
to me.
The UK and really the Europeans. I'm not going to call the Brits Europeans because that's a separate topic. Brits are like...
They are European, right? Y'all are Europe. They're in the continent of Europe.
How about we look at this situation from a different way? And because the typical farming system is different in the UK, the Brits look at it as, let's lay clean eggs rather than having to clean dirty eggs. So the Brits focus on clean eggs, producing clean eggs at the point of collection so they don't need to be washed. And because their shell isn't compromised through a washing system, they don't need to be refrigerated, which is why the eggs here are on the counter. I guess we should also talk about vaccinations, which I came across in my very limited research. Another reason why the UK isn't as concerned with salmonella as the US is that it's not as much of a thing here. So apparently in the late 90s, there was quite a large outbreak of salmonella here in the UK. I don't know if you guys remember it. And because of that outbreak, as a result of the outbreak, hen farmers started vaccinating their hens to prevent future salmonella outbreaks. Salmonella. That word does not feel real anymore. Although vaccinations have shown a decline in salmonella cases here in the UK, the US still doesn't regulate vaccinations. It doesn't require hen vaccinations against this disease. It's a disease, isn't it? Maybe I should just say disease instead of salmonella because it's getting difficult to say. Saying that though, while American vaccinations are not mandated, a lot of farmers still do vaccinate their hens. Just thought it was interesting from like a government perspective. Now I did read that the FDA said it would not legally require the vaccination of hens in the US because there is not enough evidence to conclude that vaccinating hens against salmonella would prevent people from getting sick. U.S. farmers also complained that it would be quite an expensive regulation to impose on them. So instead, the FDA controls the threat of salmonella through regular testing, refrigeration standards, strict sanitary codes, and hen houses and processing areas, and of course, the washing of eggs. And so we circle back to the fridge. This is my tiny fridge, by the way. So it comes
Okay.
down to salmonella, and how would you like to combat it? Would you like to wash your eggs and then have to refrigerate them through the entire process and then ultimately keep your eggs in the fridge? Or would you like clean eggs upon collection, which means you can forget about putting them in the fridge and keep them on the counter? The joys of doing things differently. I will say, some British people have told me that they still keep their British eggs in the fridge. It's really not necessary from like a health perspective, and actually they being like regulators, recommend keeping your British eggs at ambient temperature. Their shells are not compromised. They are more than happy to live on your counter. But any Americans or Canadians watching, if you take your eggs out of your fridge and leave them on the counter, you are asking for a problem. Anyway, I hope that was interesting. Eggs? Anyone? Salmonella? Anyone? If you would like to learn something else, why not check out this video where I learned why American bread tastes so weird. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, bye!
I think most of this stuff in America just comes down to bottom lines. It comes down to money. At the end of the day, it comes down to the almighty dollar. America's going to try a way to make the most money out of everything, and so they're going to figure out systems. But, yeah, do they taste different when they're unwashed and they're washed? That's my biggest question, because I haven't ever gotten salmonella, so I guess I'm not worried about salmonella poisoning. I feel like I did get it through Taco Bell though. They food poisoned me one time with some tacos. It was the beef, yeah, and I was very sick. And that was the one time that I was food poisoned, and it was absolutely awful. I hope to never go through that again. But through eggs, I've never got it through eggs. So my really only question would be, is there any difference in the taste? That's all we got. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are in the comment section. If you happen to enjoy this, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and check out that next video. I'll see you guys next time.